How many fans of flock cameras do we have in here? I heard a few boos. I didn't hear any claps. The government, yeah, we could all be safer if we all wore body cameras and head cameras and we had them in our living rooms and our bedrooms and on the street corners. It might make us safer, but in another way, it's going to make us less safe. And we cannot be trading our freedom of movement, our freedom of privacy for a little false promise of security. And these flock cameras have already been abused, just like the FISA program has been abused by the FBI. I mean, the FBI goes in there and looks up people on Tinder, some of these FBI agents, or looks up girlfriends that they've had to see if they're in the files. Well, you get the same thing going on with flock cameras. We don't elect angels to Congress. I guess you already knew that. But neither are the people who run these systems. And so we're far better off having our privacy. And so I'm going to introduce a bill that says that we're not going to give any federal money in order for it to be constitutional. I don't think I have the ability to ban flock cameras in any given city, but I sure do have the ability to say we're not going to give you money for the flock cameras. And so my bill will basically, as they say, follow the money. If you get grants for your police department or your municipality, whether it's a city or a county, to enforce safety or to provide protection of your citizens, we are not giving you that money to buy flock cameras or if you use flock cameras.
So I think that sounds more like just money specifically for the flock cameras. I haven't actually read the bill.
He said at the end there, if you use
flock cameras. Yeah. So
and that's what he said constitutionally. He's doing what's in his power to do to try to stop the spread, because those municipalities will surely bend the knee for that money. They have to have that federal money to survive.
This is like a crazy issue right now that's brought a ton of people together in hatred over something. You don't see that very often, but there's a lot of people on the right and libertarians and a lot of people on the left that are upset about this, and maybe for different reasons. It's really weird seeing either of them get upset about things, because they want so much government all the time. But like people on the left would have, if there was a Democrat in charge, it'd be totally fine, just someone watching you all the time. Now, the other weird thing about these is that it's not really coming from the federal government. It's coming from a whole bunch of different local municipalities all over the country. And
even as local as your HOA.
Yes, even my HOA fees that I paid for these things to go in. And I get it, why so many people like in law enforcement like them. Listen, I've got a lot of people in law enforcement in my family. Like, seems like a pretty high, above the average amount of people involved. Like my sister's a 911 dispatcher, and my brother-in-law's a police officer, and my uncle just got elected sheriff in Central Illinois. And he was actually asking me about the flock cameras last week and what I thought about them. I was like, well, I don't like them. I was like, I'm not going to go to jail for cutting one down. I'm not going to do that either, but I'll do whatever I can to try and convince people that they're a terrible idea. And he started telling me about these stories of these people that they caught. They were able to track this person all the way down to several hours away that they were looking for, that committed some kind of crime. And I totally get it. Like that's real. But it's so crazy. We're only 5 years removed from the COVID lockdown times ish.
Yeah.
Like we were in it 2021. It's happening at that time. And like, just imagine these systems being fully implemented in California or in New York or whatever states just went hard on this, or cities that went hard on this, your big, lefty cities.
You're talking about during the COVID era.
During the COVID era. I mean, imagine.
They could track you leaving your house.
Yeah, looking for, maybe you're violating some kind of stay-at-home order, or maybe you're not wearing a mask when you're walking down the sidewalk. Say you're allowed to be there, but you didn't wear a mask. And so they take a picture of you. And if they can't get you on facial recognition, they'll sure as hell trace you back to your car, which they then read the license plate of and know who you are after that. There's all sorts of ways these things. I mean, where you go to church, whether or not you're going to one of those super spreader COVID protests, stuff like that. And like right now, I get it. They can be used to solve some crimes that we want to be solved, of course, but one day, and no one can get around this, especially with the government we have right now, and seems to keep getting worse. Like one day that crime is going to be that you have a gun, that you own one, that they saw your car leaving a gun store a few times, or that they saw you go to a protest or a rally, or they saw that you were speaking out against the government or against one particular foreign government that you're not allowed to speak out against, what different associations you have. And so someday, like things like that are going to be the crimes that they would be able to solve as well. And that's a problem.
Yeah, there's no doubt that solving crimes is challenging for the government. But the thing about it is that it should be.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it needs to be difficult so that they're not able to apply crimes to innocent people or use tools nefariously against seemingly innocent people, so that it creates a tyrannical power whereby those with, as we know, narcissistic tendencies tend to gravitate towards those positions of power to use it in ways in which it's not, in which they shouldn't be used.
Yeah.
And we've already seen that play out. And as Thomas Massie pointed out, they abuse FISA. People are abusing the flock camera systems already. Sure, people get fired and things like that, but that doesn't change the fact that it's already been abused.
I want you to keep the fact that people are getting fired in your mind, and that we're finding these police officers that have done this and they're getting in trouble in your mind, because I'm going to play a clip from a show that I listen to almost every day, which is Breaking Points. And I heard them talk about the flock cameras yesterday. And Sagar, who I like a lot, has a lot of really bad ideas, but he's fairly rational on many things. Like very much opposed to his insane co-host, Crystal Ball, on that show. He had a few things to say about some of the big problems. And his big problem is that this is not being managed by the federal government. That's actually the scary part of it. All right, so here's that.
I got such an angry message from a right-wing friend of mine where I said, I genuinely would trust a place like China or Singapore to surveil me to a mass surveil me than I would Flock. And I'm about to show you why. Is because it is a for-profit company with very sketchy ability to actually hold to account, and is, by the way, not wholly bought in by our democratic system, also with a profit motive. Okay, so you put those three things together, and lo and behold, you have the problems that befall all American institutions.
Okay. His first thing here, like the real reason is that Flock Safety and some of the other companies are profit-seeking companies. And so that's why he would rather have like an authoritarian government like China be able to surveil you, because they're not seeking profit. They're only going to do a good job. And how do you know that they're going to do a good job? Competition. They could lose their position. No, it's an authoritarian government. They can do whatever they want. And so I don't understand this
the
part
owner
really at
can
all.
go to prison.
Yeah. So he talks about it being like democratic and all that, and how this is being, you literally just said that you'd rather China be doing it. Like, what are you talking about here?
Yeah.
I'd rather it be, I don't like these, and I don't want them anywhere, but I'd still rather them be a profit-seeking entity, because then at least they would be susceptible to losing money, potentially. There could be investor boycotts in their company. There could be competition come along and say, well, Flock is keeping it for 21 days or 30 days, and their system, apparently anyone can look at them, tell you what, we're going to come in, and we got one where we don't store any of it unless it's already in the system when it passes through, and we only store that plate then, or we only keep it for 1 day, or we only have a certain person who's there that can look at it.
We got cameras that are fully encrypted, and the only way to decrypt information is to have a warrant.
There you go. That's one.
So everything stays protected unless you got a warrant.
How about
we
that?
We can decrypt the information for the police to utilize.
That's going to be something that I don't know how we're going to get there. Listen,
that's a great idea.
That's a pretty good idea. Like a key.
Yeah.
That they'd have to get into the information. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. You should work on that sometime.
Yeah.
So
I'll write that down.
Yeah, you should. I'm going to write that down.
Here,
Yeah.
I got
Get that one written down.
Got this notebook left over from Josh, I think.
Yeah, Josh had that out here when he was here.
Let's see. I can get my notes down here.
The issue so far is we can all agree that they are against the spirit of the Constitution, definitely the vision of the Founding Fathers. Like, there's no question about that. I'm not sure that there's going to be cases that rule these systems to be like illegal overall. I think the likely thing that we're going to see is some reforms to the system. Maybe some kind of warrant, maybe some kind of rule that only one person has access, and then there's going to be oversight that's going to come in and things of that nature. How many days they can keep the information, different forms of oversight and reforms like that. But so far, I haven't seen anything that says they're just going to get ruled unconstitutional and everyone's got to get rid of them or anything like that. I haven't been able to find it yet, which I think is why people have just resorted to cutting the things down, because they might have found some sort of loophole. And unfortunately, it's another instance of the government using a private company to collect data that if they were just collecting the data themselves, well, then there could be some cases for that. Maybe. The issue is with public property. That's where it really comes down to, because the argument is always, well, you don't have this assumption of like privacy when you're out in public. A cop could be sitting there and see you go by. Any cop could drive up to you at any time and check your license plate anytime he wants to. And anytime you're going down a sidewalk or something like that, like there's video cameras pointed at you like all the time. And so you don't have this assumption.
Even walking around your own neighborhood, everyone's got a ring doorbell or something.
Now, when it comes to the point that they've developed these systems that are essentially creating like a dragnet across the entire country, although like ran locally and independently, that's going to be up. I would love to see it go to the court, and I'd love to see what they say about it. In the meantime, some other people are taking this into their own hands, and that's fine, in my opinion. I'm not going to get mad about it. Not going to get mad at all. Okay?
Anarchy.
Anarchy. Okay, let's get a little bit more of this clip in.
Let's go and put this next one up here on a screen. Now, to be clear, he was arrested on charges of stalking, harassment, and license plate misreader abuse. But as you can see very clearly, is that there are no actual checks within the system from stopping these small town sheriffs or any of these other places with very little accountability to be able to use it for whatever ends that they want. And I'm not against the police or any of that. But I do think it's very, very clear that if we're going to have a system like this and then spread it very oddly with no real like federal government oversight, keep it to, contracts with localities and with states, that is clearly to the advantage of Flock, the company, which is way less accountable, as I said, to some nationally organized system with, at the very least, you could have some ability to have democratic checks on this ability. And it also just gets to the point of these cameras went up, we have no say about it at all. Yeah. We're all just like, here. Okay, they're here, better deal with it. Oh, second one is that we...
Wait, hang on a second. So we would have the same democratic process as we do of checking the FBI and the NSA and the CIA and all these people that abuse all this data they collect anyway, which has been, by the way, we found this out thanks to heroes like Snowden and WikiLeaks and things like that, where the government is abusing surveillance that they had prior to Flock. And what's our democratic process? I don't know. They keep re-upping FISA. These programs. In fact, they've gotten better at hiding them.
Yeah, we know they've stopped that. We know they don't do the bad stuff anymore.
Yeah, of course.
By the way, how many people got in trouble for the the things that Snowden revealed? How many people got arrested and imprisoned for that?
Zero. No. There's only one person they're going after, which is Snowden. The person who revealed the fact that the government was committing crimes. In fact, I've brought this up many times. One of my favorite things about James Clapper, who at the time was the director of the NSA, sat in front of Congress.
It might have been national intelligence. Overall, I can't remember if it was just...
Was he DNI?
He might have been DNI. You could be right, NSA.
Anyway, he sat in front of Congress being asked questions by Senator Wyden, who knew the answer, by the way, because he's on the Intelligence Committee. And he asked Clapper multiple times whether or not that they were aggregating or collecting millions of Americans' data. And Clapper lied multiple times to Congress, didn't even get arrested for that, which is an egregious crime, as we know.
That's like one of the only things people get in trouble for.
Yeah.
As we've talked about many...
Lying to the FBI or lying to Congress.
Lying to Congress. Or lying to the government is one of the things that people get in trouble for.
Yes.
And he didn't even get in trouble for that. And so, hearing Sauger talk about how there's no checks on this system and it's not being done democratically and we have no say over... Do you have any say over whether or not the NSA is literally going to turn on the microphone on your phone right now? You can complain about it. You have no idea. This is something that people were outraged about for a little bit. They could have the freaking camera on a laptop right now if they want to. There were multiple abuses like this. And I asked the question beforehand, how many people got arrested for this? For violating people's privacy rights?
None that we know of.
How many pervs that opened up, some chick's laptop in her dorm room? No, it probably never happened. Got in trouble for something.
We know it happened.
For something like this. No. Okay, so we're already at the point, hey, let's just get rid of all these things. But at least we're already at the point where 50 cops have been charged or arrested, and so far 26 of them have been fired. Just now already, because this is being done locally. Because they have to pay attention to what this much smaller group of people in their community care, how they feel about this and whether or not they're going to get voted out. It's still difficult. Government sucks and we should probably get rid of it. But it's way easier to control your local government than it is the federal government. Are you serious?
Isn't the democratic process much better at a smaller scale?
If you're worried about a democratic process, yes. It seems like it's way more democratic when it comes down to your local governments.
Josh from the group here makes a good point that your local sheriff, it's much easier to affect his job than it is
to elect a position.
Or not even elected position, an appointed position.
Yeah, it's not always an elected position, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, do you have any democratic power over the director of national intelligence?
Obviously not.
No. I mean, you can vote for, the next president who's going to appoint a different one, but there's no democratic process.
I just love this idea is what we're going to have a committee, an oversight committee filled with people that he would also tell you have all been bought and paid for by these same corporations. And they're going to get together on this thing and do their speeches on C-SPAN.
So you just said
that's how they're going to make sure.
Bought and paid for by these corporations.
I said that he would say are bought and paid
corporations
for.
Are the problem.
That's what you get rid of the corporations, only have government. And that's how you're going to solve the problem. According to some people. That's not Sauger's point of view, but it sure sounds like it sometimes. Let's see what else he's got to say in here.
Also know about institutional misuse and abuse. This also happened many times with the NSA with their warrantless spying program. Let's put this one up.
That was the only thing he said about the NSA and their warrantless spying program, by the way. That was it. And then he's going to go through a long list of times that local people have gotten in trouble for misusing this system. He spent about 5 seconds on NSA warrantless spying program, and then is going to do a whole segment on here's all these people locally that got arrested for using this to build the case that we should shift all of that up to the NSA.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there is a point to make that, like, the number one predictor of domestic violence is whether or not there's a police officer involved. For some reason, police officers just have a high rate of
cops are involved one way or another in those things.
Domestic violence for some reason. And so, yeah, like, you take these cops who like the power that they have, of course they're going to use a system to stalk or do whatever it is against someone.
And there's some crazy cases of this.
Yeah, it's already happening.
Yeah.
So
here's a little bit more. I cut out where he talks about the individual cases. I wanted to get some of their thoughts on this because they were ridiculous.
Screen. Authorities have charged or accused at least 50 law enforcement officers of using this for unauthorized purposes. You had one dude who was tracking an ex to see if she was going to an abortion clinic. You had all kinds of stalking to see if they were with
once again, I'm going to make the point again because we just have to. They talk repeatedly about 50 officers getting charged with abusing this. And in part of their, what was about 19-minute argument about why this should be like shifted up towards the federal government, an organization that no one has gotten in trouble for all of the abuses from the NSA or the FBI.
we just wouldn't hear about it.
Yeah.
Isn't it better?
We just wouldn't know.
Ignorance is
we wouldn't
bliss,
have the stories, you know?
Here we have all of these local rogue cops. If these local rogue cops didn't have access, we just wouldn't hear about the abuses that the federal government does. Ignorance
new
is
man
bliss.
or stalking the new man to see what he was up to. Threats, abuse, horrifying stuff that is going on with this. And to your point, there's really no laws around it. And you think the police departments are going to...
There are laws around that. They got arrested.
Yes.
That's why they got arrested.
There are privacy and stalking laws at state level.
We're not arguing for Flock right now. We're not saying everything is fine. But I'm not going to take this as an argument that the federal government should control the surveillance power.
Yeah.
They just can't, the socialists and the lefties just can't get out of their, I don't know, that they will recognize some actual problems every once in a while. And they can't put two and two together. Like, in this instance, the government should just not have this power. They should not be able to see and build this profile and see this history of everywhere that you've gone, everywhere that everyone has gone. Not just someone that they are investigating for a crime or something like that, but like anyone that they want to. They shouldn't be able to do that. It's too dangerous. And they do talk about COVID in this segment at one point in time. And they talk about how there were NSA problems, and they just can't figure out that giving the federal government more power. I mean, this is a show. These are people that talk constantly about how authoritarian Trump is all the time. Okay. And then they'll argue for the federal government to have more power on stuff. Yeah. What's wrong with you?
You know what we should do? We should give this flock camera access to Trump.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be better? Wouldn't that be better?
These idiots.
just on their own make sure that there's, limited use of this technology. No, they want a free hand to be able to do whatever they want with it, so that they can deploy it in the ways that they, think are going to be useful and easy for them. It really is sort of like crack cocaine to these police departments, because even that one in California where they found the license plates were being misread 71% of the time, you might look at that and go, this seems like it might be more trouble than it's worth. Maybe they'll just get rid of it. They're not getting rid of it, because in the certain cases, they find it useful. And so once this technology becomes embedded, even when it performs extremely poorly, even when it causes all sorts of civil rights violations and privacy violations, it is very difficult to dislodge because the police departments like it. They enjoy it. And just one other piece.
Well, another thing she's describing right now is actually just government in general, that once you start some kind of program and start paying for something, it's very difficult to get rid of it.
It's as sticky as sticky comes.
Like eventually what she's getting to here is that it'll probably just take more money. They're probably just going to need more money to fix this and just make it better. Yeah. Doesn't matter all the terrible things that have come from this. It's, they can fix it. It's not a problem with the program at all, because then people would have to admit that they were wrong to do something, which we know is never going to happen. It's the case with this, and it's the case with basically every other government program that there is as well. It just needed more money, for sure. Let me see if there's anything else important in here. And I got a couple others.
Here in terms of, all right, so what's the big deal if they misidentify the license plate? Who really cares? Okay, it's kind of awkward for the police departments, et cetera. Maybe there's misuse, an expenditure of resources that they wouldn't need.
I mean, it's very obvious because at the high level, like I said, there's no federal regulation on AI license plate readers. It's all state and local. The company is getting fantastically rich. These have come across the entire nation. You can just go to DFLOC and actually look at the map of where they all are. Very likely it's already in your community or you drive one, at least unwittingly you have at a minimum in the last few months, and you have no say in this whole have I been flocked? That's only because of FOIA information that you're able to see. But there's no actual regulatory body on whether this is okay that we're outsourcing all this info completely to a private company, which is now saying that if you track where they are, that you're somehow a terrorist. So I think that the political dynamics around this are very important. Anybody should be deeply concerned about this ability of a private company to just come in, partner with the localities of which there's very little insight, regulation, or even knowledge of the community itself. They come up everywhere. And then, the justification is that it's vital in helping solve crime. And I think that's probably true. But there's also a significant downside we're seeing already with the abuse, with the misread. There needs to be the ability for the public to have some sort of say to keep things actually accountable. And it's become, I've seen this spread like wildfire in terms of people who are upset about
By the way, the public does have a say right now locally.
They do.
You've actually seen, of course they're not reporting on this, but you've seen several communities that have been able to deflock their community.
They've been able to get cities to cancel contracts. And there are also many cases that people have heard of where the city council's just ignoring people, or they're, rescheduling meetings, or they're just doing whatever they want because they've already decided they're going to do this. But it's still much easier to fix on a local level. And another thing I want people to realize with he obviously keeps making this argument for regulation from the federal government on this. That's how you officially entrench these into our system. Right now, this is all local and people are fighting back against it. And
the federal government is licking their chops. Though.
Once they come in,
they can't wait to get regulations.
Oh,
on
yeah.
This.
But once they get in, it's here. There's no more deflocking after that. Then the feds are involved at that time.
It might be a federal crime.
Yeah. Okay.
To touch a flock safety camera.
Then you're worried about them, seeing you on the flock camera, destroying the flock camera. Now they're just turned on your phone. It's what I'm saying is once that whole system gets entrenched and built up into the federal government, and you have all these regulatory bodies and oversight committees, and maybe the NSA or the FBI or someone's involved in this and regulating this, it's there. Where there's no more getting rid of it after that.
Don't kid yourself. The FBI and the NSA, they already have access to this data.
Oh yeah, sure. They want.
Don't act like they don't.
Of course they do.
Yeah, they're already watching.
But they're not looking at it because they're not supposed to.
No, they definitely are. They're already looking at it.
I just let me look at some of the.
Here's a nuance. What is the libertarian approach here? Because this is a private company. We like private companies.
Sure.
They've utilizing technology that exists and curated it in a specific way to serve the local governments. What is the answer?
So the libertarian answer in the world that we live in right now is to, I think locally you still have the ability to vote your way out of things. Nationally, maybe not. But locally, in the world that we live in, if we talked about our libertarian utopia fantasy, well, these things are getting put up on private property or on public property. And the argument is that, well, you don't have that, assumption of privacy when you're on public property. And so the actual real problem all the way down to the root cause one is government itself and public property, which is just government property. That's all. Like, well, like I own, I go do that. Can I go paint the sidewalk or something like that? My portion of it anyway, something like that. No, I mean, it's government property is what it is. So that's like really in your libertarian utopia, what the issue is. In the world we live in, the answer is really what people are doing right now. You've got a little bit from the federal government, what Thomas Massie's trying to do. That's a solution that you want to see. No federal, no taxpayer money going toward this. And eventually you want people to revolt through voting these people out or what they're doing currently. I'm not going to advocate for it, publicly on a video, but I think they're doing the right thing. Whoever they are and whatever it is that they're doing.
Yep.
I don't know what they're doing. Have you seen there's that guy that like goes and it just holds like this sign in front of it, basically blocking the flock camera like all day. He's just sitting in a chair, just holding this thing, blocking the camera. That's awesome. Have you seen?
No, I haven't seen that.
I've been saving like every flock thing that comes across. And
now here's what I found interesting. I heard on Tucker though, is that they're going to release a fleet of drones. Is that true?
They have drones.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they can send out. There's a lot of places doing like drones as first responders right now, and all of these things you can make the argument or understand the argument that there are many cases that this is a great thing. Sure, obviously, can be a drone as a first responder. That's great. It can get there just maybe because it can get there faster. Then the police can make it there, and it can actually get stuff on video or whatever, or it can aid the people that are getting there to respond. Like I get it. I totally do. We trying to figure out a good way to say this. It's not that like we don't need safety or whatever. But there is a certain amount where, like Thomas Massie said, you can keep going towards more and more safety. Wouldn't be better if we all just wore body cams all the time or whatever. Eventually you become less safe. Okay. There's just like a Laffer curve of safety kind of thing. And so eventually it's going to be so much that the government, like it becomes 1984. It reminds me of, when we did the clip of, let me try and find it real quick, the church committee stuff. And the clip has never really done well on anything, but I'll try and find it because I think it's actually pretty important. When he talks about eventually people have no way to hide and they'll have no way, and this is from someone in the government, that they'll have no way to organize any kind of resistance against the government because they'll be able to follow you at any time. They'll be able to know what you're doing at any time. And of course he had no idea the kind of stuff that we were going to have. Let me try and find that real quick.
Well, that's kind of the point of 1984 a little bit too.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll have no way, you have no privacy to have any sort of meeting groups or anything. Like if you leave your neighborhood and go to Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever, you're not anonymous anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Not anonymous. They've been able to track you all the way to that church basement, and they probably have one in the church parking lot.
Yeah.
And you're there. They know you're there Tuesday night, 7 p.m. You're no longer anonymous.
Let me play this.
You're beyond a first name basis.
Real quick. They got your last name.
That capability at any time could be turned around on the American people. No American would have any privacy left, such is the capability to monitor everything. There would be no place to hide. If this government ever became a tyranny, the technological capacity that the intelligence community has given the government could enable it to impose total tyranny. And there would be no way to fight back, because the most careful effort to combine together in resistance to the government, no matter how privately it was done, is within the reach of the government to know. Now, why is this investigation important? I'll tell you why. Because I don't want to see this country ever go across the bridge. I know the capacity that is there to make tyranny total in America. And we must see to it that this agency and all agencies that possess this technology operate within the law so that we never cross over that abyss. That's the abyss from which there is no return.
See, that's the thing. You got to operate within the law. That's
law.
what we need. We need
Yes.
more law.
And actually, there's good argument to be made that once they did all these reforms to the intelligence agencies, they actually became way worse because they actually ended up having to find a lot more ways to conceal what they were doing.
Yeah.
You know? But in spirit, I agree with the whole thing.
See, he agrees with Saagar, Nate. We need regulation.
More regulation.
We need law.
Well, actually, this is a good point that trying to regulate and reform these in a way really made them worse. And what we really learned is that they just can't exist. We have to stop. At the end of the day, the government just shouldn't be able to get any of our money. That's it. Like that. Okay, that's it. That's it. There's my libertarian utopia.
It all boils down to taxation.
They're taking your money. They'll put you in prison if you don't give it to them. Yeah. Okay. And then they end up doing stuff like this with it. Mm-hmm. It's a terrible, terrible, awful system.
They steal money from you to buy cameras to monitor you.
Yeah. You're paying for your own surveillance. Yeah. Isn't that nice?
How great is that?
Okay, let's go.
It also, by the way, people who are like, I know quite a few people that are like, oh, well, if you got nothing to hide, whatever. You have to understand that if you have no privacy, you have no freedom of thought. And if you have no freedom of thought, then you're not a human being. Mm-hmm. You don't have the freedom to be yourself because your behavior will change if you are being monitored.
It will.
For sure. Now, whether you're up to no good or you're up to good, it doesn't matter. Your posture, your thoughts, your actions, everything changes if you know that you're being monitored. And so that's why the right to privacy was so important to the founders. Benjamin Franklin wrote about this a lot in regards to having privacy for the freedom of thought. And that goes into everything what Church was saying there, which is you got to have the freedom to organize. That's within the Declaration of Independence, that when governments go beyond that, the right of the people to alter or abolish it is the right of the people.
You know the thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The tree of liberty.
You know the thing.
With blood and flock.
And flock.
Exactly.
So there's some of our partial thoughts on flock, and we'll talk about a little more.
I can't remember. Was it, were there cameras in the trees in 1984? Am I remembering that correctly?
Oh, I mean, there were cameras everywhere, so I don't know why they wouldn't be.
For some reason, trees, the Liberty tree and flock and everything got me going.
It's very 1984. That's been, oh man, it's been 5 or 6 years now since I read that one. I've only read it once, so maybe some other people would remember that in the group. So
might want to put it on your reading list again.
Should probably do that.
Yeah, everyone
should.
Yep. All right. Well, I know you have to go, so we didn't get to any of the Tucker clips.
No, I've got.
But
I've got.
Maybe we'll get there soon.
Yeah, and they're already 2 weeks old, and I kept being like, let's just not going to do them. They're old, but they did provide a good opportunity for some good conversation about stuff, and so I thought, they're still valuable. We'll do them sometime, maybe some good evergreen content regardless, but it's not going to be that hard-hitting, immediate, reaction video to something that people are virally talking about right now situation.
Just a resource, you can go to dflock.org. Just check it out. Good to know where these things exist, just to know. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying to do anything, but just to know where they're at. We live in a city that has a lot of them. Not as many as Chicago, man. My God.
Chicago have a lot?
I was looking at the map. I was like, wow. Surely their crime has dropped by 80% at least.
Must have.
And probably not. But anyway, dflock.org if you want to go check that out. If you guys enjoyed this, share it around. If you're on YouTube, comment, like, subscribe, share. We appreciate all that. If you want to be part of the Fed Haters Club, where you get access to the pre-show, we got discount codes coming up on a brand new merch store that Nate's working on. So lots of perks only for the Fed Haters Club, though. So you got to sign up to be a part of that. Do that at joingml.com. And if you do all those things, you can visit the links in the show notes to support the sponsors and support the show. If you do all that, we'll be back again on Friday.
We're just going to do Friday. I barely did today already. I was already thinking about not doing. I'm having a tough time getting my brain into the political world right now. All of these things we're talking about are very important. But there's just, when there's a lot of other things that have happened that are in your life that are also very important, it's like kind of tough to.
Maybe your grandpa wouldn't have died if there would have been some flock cameras in Pulaski. We should investigate that crime.
I think he still, it still would have. Yeah, it probably still would have. Not sure. It's worth looking into, though.
Yeah.
I think we should research that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, do those things I said or don't. We'll be back again on Friday for some Dumb Bleep of the Week. Until then, I hope you have a good day and a good morning, Liberty.